Hello, everyone. It is Kenyon here. It is Basketball Rewind, as always. And I'm today joined not by Beyond, not by Coach, but by a special guest by the name of Daryl. Daryl lives in Taiwan. Him and I have actually been talking. We were supposed to meet up in around December, but it never worked out, partly because of the weather in the region that we were trying to meet up in. Terrible, terrible weather. Um, with you being from Taiwan or living in Taiwan, I should actually say, can you tell me a little bit about, the culture, the basketball culture in Taiwan before we get into the rest of the episode? Actually, sorry, let me just restart that whole thing. That was terrible.
No
Okay,
worries.
I'm going to actually, yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's what you
Three,
do.
2, 1. Hello. It's Kenyon here. I am today on Basketball Rewind, joined by Daryl. Now, usually I've been doing these episode previews, so I want to start off by previewing today what we're going to talk about. We're mainly going to talk about Precious Achuiwa, the new addition of Mr. I'm going to start on this team, Dennis Schroder, of course, and as well as we're going to talk a little bit about Daryl himself. So, without further ado, here is Daryl. I've been talking to him for a couple months now, actually more than almost for a while now. I've lost
I
track of
think
it.
it's been over a year,
It's been
probably over a
over a
year.
year, actually.
Yeah.
But interestingly enough, Daryl currently lives and resides in Taiwan. I believe you are a educator there, if I'm not mistaken.
That's
And
correct.
I would love to hear a little bit about the basketball culture in Taiwan before we start talking about anything to do with the Raptors.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So Taiwan is a really basketball crazy place. Every day the kids are out in the playground playing ball. I'm an elementary school teacher, so every break, every recess, the basketball courts are just full of kids. And they don't speak a lot of English, but what they do know is NBA players' names. So they'll come up to me and they'll be saying like, "Teacher, Stephen Curry, Kevin Durant, LeBron James." So they know that. So it's really good to see that. And Taiwan's professional basketball leagues are really improving in quality. I'm sure that most of your viewers will know that Dwight Howard, Jeremy Lin played last season here in Taiwan. Maybe not a lot of people know is that Canadian former first overall pick Anthony Bennett also lives and plays here in Taiwan. So
I did not know that.
there is quite a lot of former or former NBA talent, some EuroLeague talent. And when guys like Shaq say that Dwight Howard's coming to play in a league full of Smurfs, well, there are players here in the Taiwan league that dwarf Shaq. So he doesn't know what he's talking about. There's a guy for the Tainan Ghost Talks. I think he's like 7'5" or 7'6", a Turkish guy, So no, it's good basketball. It's growing. It's a really growing sport, and I'm actually really grateful to be partnering up with a couple of guys and developing a basketball ESL summer camp. So
Oh,
I got
nice.
another guy, yeah, another guy in the Raptors community, a Canadian guy named Mike, Teacher Mike,
Nice.
and shout out to Teacher Mike. He's also the T-shirt guy. Maybe you should change his handle to T-shirt Mike. Um, Bears of Valor is his T-shirt company, so check that out if you can. A little plug for Teacher Mike. So he and I and a local Taiwanese basketball coach are developing a basketball camp. And Mike's a good artist. He's making a book with basketball moves. He's illustrating it himself, so I'm excited about that. So it's great to see. Yeah, Taiwan's basketball is it's a growing sport, growing fast.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I always tell people, and maybe I'm crazy in saying this. I think that basketball is probably the most fastest growing sport today, in terms of the major league sports, at least. I also think that one day my hope is that it will surpass soccer. I know soccer has, that steady lead, but I do see it growing. It is a sport to me that seems to grow very easily because it is very, for lack of a better term or way to say it, it's cheap to build the infrastructure for it, right? It's a lot cheaper to build a basketball court than it is to build a rink and maintain a rink. Also, we probably shouldn't be doing that with global warming. That's a whole other discussion than today. But the other thing too is the in terms of getting kids involved with it, it's also very affordable, and it serves as a great after-school program. And so, yeah, I just see it as something that's growing. I do think that actually, really quickly, I have a question. So you say that they know the main names. Are they hearing like do they have like a TikTok or how are they discovering these names?
Well, NBA games are shown on cable TV here. So,
Mm,
like I said, basketball is really popular. So I mean, they get most games, or at least a lot of games, like the ESPN games. They're all televised here too, and they've got like, local language coverage of the games as well. So, um, yeah, it's really in the mainstream. Kids are hearing it.
yeah, I mean it's one of the things that that market in terms of I would say that I guess the South Pacific region, it's almost an untapped market in terms of basketball, even in terms of the talent of basketball. There's actually a 905 reporter, not from Taiwan, but I believe he's Filipino, and he was just telling me like, I mean, we were talking about Kai Soto just for fun and other things, but just like how much they are just like hungering to see someone like them in the NBA. And so I just it's going to happen. People is definitely
Yeah.
going to happen. It's only a matter of time because there, like you said, there is talent and it is growing. So yeah, really quickly, just in terms like how long has it kind of been a thing, or has it been shown over there, or if you know, I'm
Yeah.
just kind of
Yeah.
curious.
All right. So I've been here for over 17 years now.
Mm,
Crazy. And when I first got here, there were basketball games shown on TV. So I remember
wow,
noticing like right away, like, hi, cool. They don't show a lot of other North American sports. Basketball's the only one, and even soccer, they don't show a lot of soccer games here. But I noticed there was
nice. No, I'm
there was
just kidding.
NBA coverage. But it's grown a lot since, obviously, and especially with online streaming platforms, Game Center and that kind of thing. It's really, really grown a lot.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's
Um,
always it's always been big here.
I'll definitely after this get your the information from Mike. I'm gonna put that stuff in the description down below, and
Awesome.
of course, when the camp or if there's anything related to that sort of thing, whether it's out now or whether I have to even update the episode later, let me know. And again, people, it will be in the description down below, so definitely check those things out when they are available, of course. So. With that being said, the topic at hand today are two things. We're going to talk about Pascal. No, just kidding, people. We've probably had enough of that for now. So, what we're actually going to talk about is we're going to talk really, really briefly just about the summer league, just because it did just happen. So, I believe the Raptors, if I'm not mistaken, they played either their last or second last summer league game. If it isn't, the nightmare's almost done, people. With that being said, um,
Thank goodness.
yes, you and I were just talking right before just about different styles of play and different types of confidences, and how that can play out on a court. And I really wanted to talk really briefly about Gradey Dick from that standpoint. One of the things that I noticed is that he seems to be willing to forget the last shot, but at the same time, some of the ways that he's trying to make passes to cutters or his court vision or even his moves on the court. I know he does need to improve a little bit on the handle for sure, but he showed to me more of an in between game than I thought he did. Just want to hear your thoughts on that first.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's much more than a spot up shooter. He's shown a separation. I think he's a more versatile player than JJ Redick type, even like because of his height, his size. He, he he has a surprising ability to get around guys, and he can go over guys because of his height and his length. So I think that's something that he can really develop into a strength in his game. He was scoring in the mid range too, which is also a really, really important thing for a 3-point shooter. When they get run off the 3-point line, they have to score from somewhere, right? They got to be able to take a couple of steps inside the arc and hit a midi or make a pass. And I've seen that from him. I like that he was showcasing some of his other things in his bag, his moves,
Yep.
like a little spin move or a fake move or something like that. Now, it's summer league, so it's the appropriate time to showcase him. I guess that's kind of he's really the only link between this summer league team and the NBA. at this
Yes.
point. Like, and the
You
Toronto
would
Raptors, like
hope.
nobody else. Yeah. So this is all about showcasing him to see kind of a little bit of a taste of what he can do. So I don't mind. I'm not allergic to him doing these kind of showboaty things or things that I don't want to see him do once the regular season starts. But it's good to know that he has this kind of ability that he can develop it going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think even the last game that this was his highest scoring game that I really like sat down and like really paid a huge amount of attention to. One of the things that I noticed is that he probably missed out on like 3 more assists or 2 more assists just because dudes like I'm not gonna even name names today, but dudes couldn't really catch lobs. That's not any sort of shade against the other dudes. It's just like that's the talent that he's playing with. I do like the fact, like you said, that he's able to showcase the talent and show that he has that. If not now, when, right? And
Right.
like the fact that he can uh, get points in a variety of different ways. I know the shot wasn't really hitting, but like, as I said on a different show, guys were hanging off him like a wood tick on a dog. So at some point, it's like. There's only so much he can do. If your running mate is Noel, no shade to Noel, but it's like there's a difference between what those dudes are going to do and potentially the gravity we will see the gravity of Scotty Barnes this year, but also potentially Pascal Siakam, who creates a lot of gravity on those driving kicks. And to be honest, I think when we talked earlier, I said I just keep repeating this to everyone. Gradey is a ceiling raiser. He is someone who acts as a multiplier, which is really what you need, and that's a really important thing. He's not a floor raiser. So you're not I think he can in a pinch run some stuff, but you're not relying on him to run your offense. Um if that happens this year, something really bad happened. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think you're right about being a ceiling raiser. Every team that is successful needs a guy like this. Um, Golden State had Clay. I mean, I'm seeing more and more Clay in Grady's game, but prime Clay, not Clay now, prime Clay. And people were sort of reticent to acknowledge that because they didn't see much of a defensive game in Grady Dick, but these
Yeah.
summer league games have shown that he can be a very disruptive team defender. And he's so handsy. He's always poking those arms out there, disrupting passes, getting deflections. Like I think he's a better defender than people give him credit for, and I see that he has room to develop that side of his game. So I think he can be a very useful and versatile player, not just a shooter. So I'm really encouraged by that.
Yeah, I think just one other thing on Grady really quickly is like, I think my comp for him now, and I hate doing comps, but I'll just do one just because
You're gonna say Michael Porter Jr. You're gonna say that, right?
No, no, actually,
Oh, okay,
is
okay.
that what people are saying? That's an
Yeah, that's
interesting
the
one.
new one is Michael Porter Jr. But no, okay,
Oh, I
go
was gonna.
ahead.
So I've had one in my mind for a while, and it's like, so it's a cross between like Klay Thompson and like, just like how you said, Prime, Gordon Hayward. Because I think like his playmaking
Yep.
ability mimics a little bit of what Gordon did, and then even like the defensive ability, because people forget like Gordon could defend. Like Gordon, and I'm not
You're
and
so you're
people, I'm
you're so
not saying this
racist, Kenyon.
because because he looks like Gordon Hayward. Just so you know. Sorry, what were you saying?
I was like, you're so racist, Kenyon.
Yeah, yeah.
I just kidding, just kidding.
I said a mix between, that's okay. Anyway, so with that being said, yeah, other than that with Summer League, to be honest, I mean, I don't know if you read Doug Smith's article today, but he basically said like Joe Wieskamp, 0% chance of making the roster. It was pretty harsh.
Yeah,
But sometimes while Doug has such a beautiful way with words, apparently. Um, I would say that he's probably leaning towards being correct. So, with that being
I think
said,
so.
it's probably best to move to the next two topics. So, I'm going to give you, the driver's seat role. Is that do you want to talk about Precious or do you want to talk about the man of the hour, the myth of the legend, Mr. Dennis Schroder?
All right, let's start with Dennis Schroder. He's the hot topic.
Okay.
And yeah, just I was doing a little bit of research on Precious, before our show, and it is incredible. There's like a black hole, a void of information on Precious Achuiwa for about the last 5 or 6 months. There's nothing. He hasn't been interviewed. I mean,
Yes.
there are a few highlight packages of stuff that he did in game, but so he can wait a little longer before he gets talked about. So let's talk about Dennis Schroder.
Yeah, I was gonna say the
Dennis
last thing
Schroder, yeah.
was him, I think, with the milk where he couldn't open the milk, the bagged milk, and that's the last thing
Yeah,
that I remember. Yeah, sorry, you were
yeah,
saying.
yeah. Yeah, no, yeah. Dennis Schroder, yeah, yeah, he's an interesting fit. I think that one of the best ways to sort of get a feel of a new addition to a team is to go to his previous team and see what people are saying about him leaving or about his time there. So I went and listened to a bunch of Lakers guys talk about him, and basically what they were saying. No, I know. You never know what to expect, right?
Yep.
So I was wondering. I was like, are they happy he's gone? Do they wish they'd still kept him? What's their sort of feel on it? And I was not pleasantly surprised because I wasn't that very surprised about it, but
Yep.
it was a little bit encouraging because they were all basically saying that they wished that he had stayed.
Hmm.
They were a little bit sorry to see him go. And basically everybody said that he was good for the Lakers, but not great. Good, but not great.
Right.
He was solid. And they thought that as a backup to D'Angelo Russell, that he was a really, really great fit. And I was thinking, well, is that a backhanded compliment? Because like a lot of people would say D'Angelo Russell isn't really a starting point guard. So if and certainly in the playoffs when Russell was practically unplayable, um,
Yeah.
if you're a point guard that can't surpass an unplayable starter, like what does that say about you? But to be fair to Dennis Schroder, I looked up his numbers. They were middling, but I do know that he had impacts on games. So for example, the Lakers play-in game, they would have lost that game against Minnesota without Dennis Schroder putting
Yes.
up a big. So, you know, he has an impact on winning, even if his averages are not that great. So I can see their point as a backup guard. I think that he's really, really good. I think he's probably one of the best backup guards in the league. He's really, really, really solid point of attack defender.
Yes.
And that's something that the Raptors need at the guard position. So I'm
Yes.
glad that they got him there. Now, to speak about his confidence and the role that he foresees himself in, it remains to be seen. It remains to be seen. I think that in Oklahoma City, he showed that he could be, or at least has the potential to be, a useful fringe starting point guard. Sure. And his relationship with Darko that dates back to then, he might sort of rekindle things, and you never know. You never know. I'm
Absolutely.
a little bit reluctant to say, yeah, go for it. Hand him the reins. Let him be the starter. See what he can do. Let him play more than 30 minutes a game. He was averaging around 30 minutes a game for the Lakers last year. I mean, that's
You did.
pretty
And
close to
he
starter
also
minutes.
started I think out of 66 games played, he started, I want to say 50 something. It might
Oh,
even be
okay. So
50 exactly. I'm
yeah,
not looking
okay.
at it
Is
offhand
that
right now.
true? Okay. I
Yeah.
didn't know that. I didn't
Yeah.
know that. So um the thing about him is consistency. He's a feel player, he's a rhythm player, a flow player, and so he gets going, or he needs to be in that rhythm. And he was injured a little bit at the beginning of the season last year, and that might have impacted his flow getting into things. And I just think he's not a great shooter. He's not a terrible shooter. Really, I think the best thing about him is his point of attack defense. That's probably his strongest thing. He's a very pesky defender. He's got a good motor, and he can get to the basket. He can score in the paint better than Fred could. So
Yes.
I guess in that sense, he won't be too much of a downgrade from Fred VanVleet
No.
overall as far as impact on the game. I don't think that he will be a downgrade at all. He might even be an upgrade as far as impact to the game. He's not going to be the offensive player that Fred was, obviously, but it's time for other players on the Raptors to step up and shoulder more of the offensive load. OG's been asking for more of an offensive load. Good. This is perfect. This is perfect. Get a defensive guard, and OG gets more touches. All right. Schroeder's not really a playmaker. He gets assists, but he's not a transcendent passer. He doesn't see things before they happen that well. So in that sense, I hope that pairing him up in the backcourt with Scotty as a point forward, I guess, let Scotty do a lot of the playmaking, could work, maybe.
Mhm.
I don't know. What are your thoughts on Schroder?
So I keep going back and forth. I sent you the 2019-2020 stats. I just quickly, as you were talking, looked up the most recent stats, and yeah, actually, it was 50 games, and I just did that from
Oh,
memory, but it was 50 games,
well done.
and that he started and played 66 games. First things first, something that we lack on this team: health. He is very healthy. He is always in the playoffs. He has a ton of experience from that standpoint. That is something that's very needed. And when I say he played in the playoffs, I'm not saying like you're getting the corpse of, Thaddeus Young barely hanging on there, or, with a cane practically. It's like he's still like basically in the prime of his career, been relatively
Yeah,
healthy for his entire career, and he's played different roles throughout his entire career. And I,
yeah,
I like that. Um,
yeah, yeah.
I will eventually put the 2019-2020 stats on screen. But for now, I'm just going to focus on last year's stats that are relevant. So, perimeter defense, I'm looking right now. And in terms of his isolation defense, he was in the, sorry, it's a little bit small, but it looks like the 92nd. I'm going to just round and drop off the decimal places, but essentially he's above the 92nd percentile.
Yeah.
In terms of his perimeter defense, you look at screen navigation, very important because right now, a guy like Gradey, that's probably his weak point. I'm not saying that he's going to be, well, he might actually be paired with Gradey depending on the role. But even, guys that aren't OG, Siakam's okay in terms of his perimeter defense, but I think we misuse him on defense. He really is better in the post, and the stats actually back that up. But in terms of Dennis, you want someone who's going to be a good point of attack defender to be able to navigate screen.
Mhm.
Again, squinting my eyes here, he is is 91.9. So let's round up the 92nd percentile, right? Off ball chaser, not as good,
Yeah.
but just below the 70th percentile. Now, here's where the key thing happens with him. Um, 3-point shot quality, 95th percentile.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm looking at it right now.
And that is something that's very, very important. I think the way that he tends to play, and by the way, he shot best in a Darko system. I will say that.
Yep. Yep.
Um, he is someone who's the catch and shoot numbers are going to be very, very important. So now, if I quickly go, and sorry, people, to make this super, super stat heavy, but we're just going to continue on and just focus mainly on perimeter shooting. I don't really want to get into his playmaking. I think he's okay. I think he navigates pick and rolls pretty decently. He's just a decent point guard. He's a solid point guard, and there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. That's actually something that sometimes we've needed because, assuming that Scotty Barnes is going to take the primary point guard duties, well, then you need someone that, unless you plan on doing the whole Nurse Thibodeau thing again, you expect someone to play at least 20, 25 minutes a game and help him out with that. And especially if you are going to have him go and increase his usage, increased usage does mean, unfortunately, usually increased injuries. So if that happens, again, you need someone. And all respect to, well, Delano Banton's not here, and so we already are. And in terms of Flynn, I don't think that Flynn really plays like a point guard so far. So you need someone
Yeah.
who is serviceable right now. And so yeah, so with that being said, I'm looking at his best year, which in terms of shooting under Darko, or a Darko involved team. And I'm going to just say his 3-point percentage at the time was in the 75th percentile. Again, I'm rounding these up, but I will put this on screen, or parts of these on screen. His on ball gravity at the time was in the 89th percentile from the looks of it. Again, people, I don't have my glasses on, and I actually don't wear glasses anymore. But I'm trying not to squint here uh, and ruin my eyesight. But the other thing, too, which is really interesting, is the catch and shoots. So that is really where I think you are looking for someone to make their bread and butter off ball. And that's why it's like, someone like a Grady Dick or other people are going to be very, very interesting. Even looking at Gary Trent, that is where they're going to make their bread and butter. Heck, even to be honest, Pascal Siakam, although they're for whatever reason they didn't use him in his best position, which is in the corner, um, his catch and shoot is still pretty decent actually. So guess what, people? Catch and shoot is a lot easier than pull-ups. In terms of his catch and shoot numbers, that's in the 91st percentile. So I think he fits. I think he's actually very, very interesting in our system. And like to me, I look at him as a serviceable guard. I don't know if he's going to start. He might start, depends on who's here. Heck, we might be trading everyone at this point. I have no
Yeah.
idea. I don't even know if Masai knows. But with that being said, I think he's definitely a fit. And I'm actually really of all of the guards that we could have got, there was maybe one other. I wasn't really big on Gabe Vincent. I don't know about you. You can give me your opinion on that in a second, but I think he was interesting. Javon Carter was interesting, and a few others. So yeah,
Well, I think Gabe Vincent in the regular season did not overwhelm me at all. He got hot in the playoffs, and so recency bias says that he's a better player. But
yeah.
um, no, I think if you look at overall career wise, I think Dennis Schroder has shown that he's a little bit more of a, I don't know, maybe a needle mover or another one of these guys that can raise a ceiling a little bit.
Yeah.
Can raise a ceiling a little bit. Yeah, I mean he's got consistency issues, but so does Gabe Vincent. He's a little on the small side. He's what is he, 6'1"?
I think 6'1" or 6'2". He's not like
I
tiny,
don't think
tiny.
he's I don't
Um.
think he's 6'2". Gabe Vincent's definitely bigger than Schroeder, and
Oh,
Schroeder's
okay.
a pretty wiry guy too. So yeah, so it's like another small guard. But again,
Mm.
like you said, he's a pesky defender. Or like I said, he's a pesky defender, and he's serviceable. He does all those little things. And the confidence that he has that he can be a leader on this team and that he wants to be a starter, but he's shown in his career that he's okay with the role that he's put. I think that he's exactly what the Raptors need, a guy who can play a role and do a good job sort of in all areas. He's very versatile, can do it across the board.
He's also, at least it seems from this most recent Lakers run, and as you said, like at times he was like outside of Austin Reeves, he was basically the next best thing outside of LeBron for the Lakers in terms of being able to initiate offense. So, I mean, when you get a guy who was recently in a Western Conference Finals, who has playoff experience and all that, and he's bringing in that veteran leadership into a locker room. I think that that is really, really important. I'm very curious to see how the response is because I know he did say that he's very pointed and direct. I think it'll be fine personally, and I think sometimes we actually need that more than we think. But I'm very curious to see how guys respond to that.
But you can tell just by listening to him. He's a straight shooter, and he is not afraid of the moment to, he's not afraid to challenge people. He's not afraid to say what he's thinking. Um, so yeah, like that is part of leadership. That is definitely what you need. And when you have maybe the star player on your team, Siakam is not that type of personality.
No.
He's a lead by example guy, but he's a more quiet guy, a go with the flow guy. I don't feel like Schroeder is a go with the flow guy at all. I see a little bit of Jimmy Butler in him. Um, he's a he can be a bit of a disruptor, I think. But I think that's good. He will kick guys out of complacency. He's not Pat Beverly, thankfully. So he's kind of like a little bit more nuanced, a little bit more sophisticated Pat Beverly, let's just say.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I'm a huge fan of Pat Bev, mainly because of the story.
Oh,
Because
okay, yeah,
his
fine,
story
fine.
is super incredible, where he like played in Russia and then came up, and it's just like, yeah. But I agree, he's also a character in all sorts of ways. So, and Pat Bev would not well, I mean, on like he was on our team, he might have made it past the plan, but uh, But beyond that, yeah, I'm glad we don't have Pat Bev on this team. Might been a bit too much last year. Um, you did say something that kind of sparked. Um, we'll actually we'll hold that for now. Um,
Okay.
Instead, we're just gonna shift right into Precious, because
Yeah, let's do
Precious
that.
has been in large part actually throughout Raptors social media kind of the forgotten guy. I keep bringing up Precious and Boucher because I keep saying like I don't know how both of them are going to get minutes next year. So yes,
Mhm.
Masai, I get the whole like this thing, but what about the other thing? I mean, it's funny. I forget it was actually the Suns today, and it's like they're looking. I forget who they're looking to deal, but it's like they were also they were targeting guys like TJ McConnell, et cetera, et cetera. And to me, I'm like, okay, I want to hear stuff like that because we keep focusing on like the big pieces, but it's like, what about again let's instead of getting so caught up in these home run moves again, like I've told you before my baseball analogy, can we hit like a couple singles and get on base? It would be nice.
Mhm.
People watch the Blue Jays. So with that being said, um, let's just get into Precious because we had a really good conversation the other day about Precious and how he might fit in a Darko system as opposed to a
Mhm.
nurse system. So I'll let you take the floor.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. So Precious is an afterthought, and it's sad to see because um, last off season was it? I think last off season there was a lot of kind of a little bit of hype. Nick Nurse was saying like he saw Precious is working. He says he was like taking it seriously. He was putting in the effort in the gym, and he was going to take a big step forward. And everybody was kind of a little bit hyped to see the development. And then nothing really came of it, So, and I was wondering why. So I look back and I watched a lot of interviews with Precious, and I
Hmm.
think that you know you listen to what players say about themselves, and that tells you everything you need to know. So, what kind of player is Precious? Is he a system player? Is he a rhythm player? Like, and I realized that he is very, very, very rhythm based. He is a
Hmm.
guy that has to be feeling it. And so that kind of player needs touches, needs consistent confidence to get going. And unfortunately, I think because of his place in the pecking order, it's really, really difficult for him to get what he needs to become that kind of player. So I would actually like to see him become more of a system player. And I think that
Yes.
Darko in offense, especially, I think that Darko is a good fit for that because I feel like he's going to identify where Precious can be used in the system better. And so what are Precious's strengths? Well, he's really good in transition. He can be a really, really great defender, even though the metrics don't show it. The advanced stats show him to be a below average defender, but I don't buy that at all. So I think that even going back to his Memphis days in college, uh, he was drafted by the Heat based on his defensive potential. He was a
Yep.
really good defender, and so I think the potential for defense is sky high here. I would like to see him developed as a wing defender, not a center, not a power forward. I would
I
like to
agree
see
with
him
that.
developed as a wing defender, and the reason for that is that I believe he has a corner three, a, a sneaky corner three hidden in his game that has not seen the light of day yet. Here's why I say that. Um, in one of his interviews, he was talking about at Memphis when he was there for that year. He was the last one to leave the gym because he would be working on his 3-point shot,
Hmm.
his corner 3-point shot, every single practice. After every practice, he'd be sitting there shooting threes. And then when Miami drafted him, he attempted like one or two threes in the entire season in his rookie year. He attempted and he missed both of them. So people just pigeonholed him as a dunker, um, not a shooter, a non-shooter. But if you look at his shot, he's got a really nice looking jump shot. And
Hmm.
you don't have a nice looking jump shot by accident. If you look at his free throw numbers, his free throws last year jumped up to over 70%. They were like 59% the year before, and like his first year was in the 50s too. And then last season it was up to 70%. Well, that's encouraging, and you're showing improved free throw shooting every single year. Not only that, his 3-point attempts went way up, and I'm sure that we all remember there was a couple of stretches there where he was shooting in the 40%. from three. Like the season before last, after the All-Star game, when he was invited to the Rising Stars game, and after he came back to Toronto, he was just lights out. He was
Right.
shooting more for like 10 games or something. He was shooting 40% from three. He's hit a spot up transition three. Like it was crazy to see that. I'm sure we all remember he's only hit, I think, one of those in his entire career, but it was memorable. So
Yep.
I think he has the potential to have a consistent corner three. And if he does, as a wing defender, shooter, like corner 3-point shooter, he'll space for everybody. And the nice thing about it is he's got the size and burst and athleticism that players will have to close in on him in the corner, and then he will just drive baseline and throw down monster dunks. So defenders aren't going to know what to do. They're not going to be able to sag off of him, and they're not going to be able to cover him too closely. And he's 6'9". Like imagine he can shoot over people. If he gets that consistent three, I can see him being an absolutely deadly player. I can see him being an OG Anunoby part two, or I don't know what you want to call that. OG Anunoby beta. I don't know. So I love the potential that I see, but again, he's got to show it now. Now, hopefully he'll get the reps, he'll get the opportunity, and he'll get the confidence, because what he said in his interviews is he needs positivity around him. He needs encouragement. And I don't think that was really there on the Raptors last year. There wasn't a lot of positivity behind the scenes, and he didn't get a lot of opportunities. I mean, to me, this is sort of the last chance for him to really blossom as a player or plateau. And I think it's up to the role that he has.
Yeah, I mean, so for me, I agree with everything that you're saying. The way that I put it is, I think Darko can easily optimize Precious by simplifying his game. A Nick Nurse led offense requires you to have the ability to you need to be able to make very fast decisions, very quick.
Yeah.
Your processing speed needs to be like that. Not everyone's like that. Some guys are. Siakam really did. I think he has really grown his playmaking beyond what he's even now still given credit for. I think Barnes in open court there 1,000%. Half court needs some work, but you can see the flashes for sure. Um, I think with Precious, you need to, if he's ever gonna get that, which I don't know if I have the confidence of that, that needs to come after the other things. And I think by having two things, you actually, I'm gonna take your words. You actually built the blueprint for it. Put him in the corner, give him two things. You do straight line drives, because that, if you people go back, read his scouting reports, he was always a good straight line driver. He also, on this team, for all of the wings, because for example, Barnes doesn't really have that good of a first step. It's his second and third step that has that power, and once he gets going, he's like a Mack truck. But Precious has juice in his first step, like my goodness. Whereas Siakam tends to, um, his first step isn't there, but it's his ability to kind of slither into small spaces. I think, I want to say Katie, or sorry, Caitlin Cooper. Not, I was going to say Katie
Yeah.
Handel. Caitlin Cooper described it as, for Siakam, when he scores, it's like slipping a paper through a shut door, right? And it was like, yeah, like
I
you
like that.
shouldn't
I like
have
that.
to do that. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, she is a writer, so
Yeah.
yeah, you, you're really good with words. Also, side note, people check out her work because she is one of the best.
It's good.
I know for a fact that if she wanted a front office job, she could get a front office job. She's that good. But yeah, I mean, with Precious, you need to either do that or one other thing, which is shoot the jumper. Make that decision, quick time, boom. You can add one other thing, which is pass. The problem is that when he's, and even that might be a little bit too much, because there were times this year, I remember Gary would be right beside him or near him, and it's like this, and then he'd be like deer in the headlights. And I think right now he struggles when you have to make a decision. And that's okay. Not everyone needs to be
Yeah,
some like cerebral, decisive, dude on the court. I
yeah.
think that's
I think.
yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, go ahead. Finish your thought.
Oh, I was gonna say I think that's why sometimes I harken back to the Casey days of the roll
Mhm.
card. But yeah.
Okay. It's really easy to oversimplify and boil things down to a guy has low court vision, low court IQ, low basketball IQ. That's really
Mm,
easy to pigeonhole a guy into that.
mm,
And a lot of people have said that's the knock on Precious. He has low court vision, low basketball IQ. But I mean, there are so many contributing factors,
mm,
and it's not an exact science. You can't just look at what a person is doing and then automatically know why. So, like, take some time to explore, like, why? What is the situation that he's in? And something really kind of enlightening is in one of his interviews I was watching, he was saying that he puts a lot of time in the gym to work on his game and to add new things to his game. And the interviewer asked, like, is it frustrating in Nick Nurse's system to put in, to add these things to his game and then not be able to show them in game, not be allowed to show them or not be able to show them because of lack of opportunity or lack of minutes or whatnot. And he said that that's extremely frustrating. He says that when he adds something to his game, all he wants to do is get out there and do it in the game. So the problem is when you add something new, when you add a new skill and you don't have real world experience using it, you've only been practicing it. The first few times that you use it in the real world, it's probably not going to go very smoothly and you're going to look like an idiot. So, I mean, it's the same like in everybody's career. Like when I graduated university, I had an education degree. I had practical classroom experience, and then I got a job as a teacher. And I was up in the classroom, and the first week, I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm completely unprepared for this. And the students were saying so, like they're just like this teacher's not very good. Like, it was kind of discouraging, and it took me a while to get my feet under me. And then by the end of my practicum, actually my second practicum, at the end, the students, we asked for feedback, and they're all saying like that I found my voice, I found my style. And by the end of it, they really, really enjoyed my classes. So, and since then, I haven't really looked back. Like I've been growing my skills as a teacher for almost 20 years now. And now I feel comfortable going into a new setting. I can go into a brand new job and I can do a great job on the first day. Precious is trying to do what he has been adding, what he's been working so hard to do, and then to show it in game when he's only getting 12 minutes off the bench in a limited role where maybe the team is losing and he doesn't have the leeway to show what he wants to show. Imagine he gets in there and he tries to show something, it doesn't work, and that's it. He doesn't get a second chance. He's benched. And then maybe for the next 5 or 10 games, like he doesn't get any run. No wonder it looks like he's got a low IQ. So I think I like what you said about simplifying his game. But at the same time, I think let him show the things that he has worked on in his game, but not all at once. Tell him, okay, you've worked on your corner three. Show us your corner three. Don't show us your spin moves. Don't show us your floater. Wait until next week to show us those things, and then let him incrementally get his feet wet in real world situations. And I think that will go a really long way. I do not feel like he's a stupid guy. You wouldn't believe, like his free throw shooting percentage, listening to his interviews from 3 years ago to this year, just his interview skills. He sounds so much more intelligent now than he did 3 years ago. He would stumble over words, he would repeat himself, he would kind of miss the point. Now it's like the interviewer asks a question, and in the first 2 seconds before the sentence is half finished, he already understands what the question is going to be and how he can answer the question. That's the mark of an intelligent guy. So I think that he does have intelligence, and I think that what he's doing in game is a lot like what Grady Dick is doing in summer league. He's trying to showcase what he can do. So I feel like give him the opportunity, give him the chance. I don't think that he necessarily has low court vision. I don't think he necessarily has a low basketball IQ. I think it can be explained by him simply just trying to do too much in too limited an opportunity and not getting enough reps in the real world to actually grow and settle into that. That's just my thoughts.
Right. I'll first start off by saying I've changed my language on this channel where I don't use IQ. I use situational awareness. It's something that I talked to the 905 guy JD about. It's like something that I think is really important, especially for young, frankly, black people. Um, for as someone who has had to, unfortunately, you'll probably have heard of the book, and we I will not go into a whole thing about this, but the bell curve. I had to debate someone about that. So as someone who has had to literally go through that, go through the metadata, go through the original studies, and debate someone on the bell curve, yeah, I don't like the term IQ for really a lot of players, particularly those who are under certain ages. But I do think that situational awareness is probably fair. Where I am going when I say simplify, and I think you understand this, it, because I think your point was more broader than just like, at me, but more like the conversation around
Yeah,
Precious is this.
exactly.
I
Exactly.
think with Precious is like I agree it, and I'm not the coach. They probably don't see this, but I think when I say simplify the game, give them the three things, and then what you do is that during the first, I almost feel like so Nurse like to experiment for the whole season, right? And I think you have to, these guys are creatures of habits. That's what a lot of NBA players say. Like I wear the same underwear, hopefully not too much. I wear the same socks, I wear the same shoes. I have a routine. Fair enough.
Mhm.
I think that you need to, if you're going to experiment, you need to experiment for a set period of time in a season. So maybe the first 2 months. Once December hits, okay, it's real time. No more experimenting, right? Because then you can kind of there's a little bit of a margin for error there. You can within games you can kind of get your feet wet on different whether it's a spin move or whatever. Sure, and
Mhm.
to your point, I agree with you. It's just I want to say get these things correct, and then you can do for every three that you hit or every two threes that you hit, you now get a spin move, right? That sort of thing, where you reward a
Yeah.
guy. Okay, check, check, and then he looks over the bench. Yeah, right. Because it's kind of like almost like gamifying in a sense, like the progression of your players. I
I
don't know
like
if
that
they
a
do
lot. I
that,
like that.
but yeah, I don't know if they do that, but that's I think something that like an approach that I would like to see done or talked about more. They probably do it, to be honest, in some way, shape, or form, but I have no
Mhm.
idea. But yeah, I
It's
think.
also important. Oh,
Mhm.
go ahead. Finish your
Oh no,
thought.
yeah,
There's a
no,
little
I just think that it's just important to kind of, especially for someone like Precious, who is essentially 1 year behind in terms of his development in a way, to kind of have that for him. You were gonna say.
Yeah, it's also important to remember that he didn't pick up a basketball really until he was in eighth grade. He was a
Mhm.
soccer player before that. So people talk about Christian Koloko and Pascal Siakam as being late to start basketball. Well, Precious should be in the exact same conversation. So he's only been playing ball for like less than 10 years in his life. You know, so
Absolutely.
you know he needs more development there. And what was I going to say?
He needs
Yeah,
to finish better
take
around the
over.
hoop. So that's what I'll
Yeah, he
say is
does.
that's one thing is
Yeah.
like I was saying to you before, I'm like, I don't know what the name of the pads is, but whatever pads they need to like just do that for the whole summer. Like if he does that, that
Yeah.
will like seriously significantly help him a lot
Mhm.
this upcoming year, because there's a lot over the past. I mean, he did improve from year over year, but there's a lot,
Mhm.
especially in the first year and a half, I want to say, where he
Mhm.
would like do these moves even in transition, and it's like. they say $1 million move and a 10-cent finish, and it was a lot of that. And I
Mhm,
think that that's a
mhm.
really easy way. Not just him. I mean, Barnes, Siakam has gotten there since
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like, but
yeah.
like that's like to get there.
Koloko,
Koloko,
Christian Koloko needs that a lot. Yeah,
yes, I'm not as worried about Koloko because I want to see how he is, and sadly, you only see him sitting down right now. So I want to see
yeah.
how he has responded to his NBA strength and conditioning program. Once I see
Mhm.
that, then it's like okay, because like that's part of it is just like he just needs to get stronger. Whereas Precious is
Mhm.
like Adonis, right? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Like, so I don't think that he necessarily needs to like gain another 15 pounds just to like be able to finish through dudes. I would hope
He
not.
he knows it. He knows it too.
He
That he's
does know it.
Adonis. It was hilarious. There was an interview I watched about after the Philly series last year.
Mhm.
People were saying like, you did a pretty good job guarding Embiid. How was that? And he's like, it's tough. Embiid's pretty near 300 pounds. And then an interviewer is like, so are you gonna gain? Are you gonna try and get up to 300 pounds? And Precious is like, no. He's like, are you kidding? I like the way I look right now. And he kept repeating that he likes the way he looks. So he knows how he looks.
Of course, of course. I was gonna say something, but I won't. My um, Precious is definitely from the Niger land. So they have a very big workout culture at some point. So yeah,
Mhm,
I digress back into this. Yeah, I think the other thing with Precious that will be interesting is again, I think that the moves that they have made in terms of the style of coaching that they want to bring into this new season, I think that alone will help them. Um, I still
hope
will
so.
always bring back this point, which is you said minutes, and I agree, but I'm still confused because well, I actually before I get into there was three pathways. There's now two because I don't think he should be developing as a center. I think in spot minutes that's fine, but I agree it's either a don't know if I see wing creator, but that is a possible thing.
Yeah.
But it's yeah, it's a long, that's a longer road. But I think he could definitely be more of like a small forward, power forward, like tweener type in some sort of way. The problem is that even if you ship out Pascal Siakam and people are saying I want a Kongu, um, and it's like okay, where is he getting minutes when you still have Chris Boucher?
Yeah.
And I really feel for Precious, and that's one thing that I would like to see solved. One thing that I'd like to see talked about a little bit more, because guess what? Just like two other people, actually I should say three other people, because there's Precious, there's OG, and there's Pascal, and there's GTJ, all in you know contract years. At some point, unless I hear some sort of extension talks with Precious, how is he going to showcase his talent to? At the end of the day, people can point to Pascal and be saying he's about his money. OG's about his money too. What we think
Mhm,
the defensive player of the year's campaign was partially about? Obviously, he is a
mhm.
defensive, really good menace, but defensive player of the year equates to a supermax contract as well.
Yeah.
So I'm not pocket watching. I really don't care about that sort of thing. I actually think it's important because these guys, if you reach a second contract, you are now talking about generational wealth. You're able to really truly feed your family. I don't blame it, but Precious is in that situation where he is in a contract year. So how do we get there?
Yeah. And I mean, there needs to be
It's a tough
trades, but then
question.
again, trades can solve the problem or compound the problem. For example, if you trade, okay, let's just say you trade Pascal Siakam. Let's say you trade him to Atlanta for Okongwu or AJ Griffin. Again, like what you're doing is you're replacing one player with other players that are in the same sort of position as Precious. So that's not really going to work very well. If you trade OG, well, that would open up a spot at the small forward for Precious. But again, who are you going to get back in an OG deal? You might get the same type of player as well. So that you could compound the issue. Um, from an asset management perspective, I would like to see moves be made for draft picks and maybe older roster players. that can be useful, but maybe in a limited role, or specialists, that kind of thing, with a lot of draft capital, maybe a prospect that's not ready to jump in there quite yet, that can be developed. And let Precious develop from an asset management perspective, if nothing else, build up his value. I mean, he was the centerpiece in the Kyle Lowry trade. Shouldn't we be treating him as such? And if there is no room for him in the future, you let him build his value and then you trade him, or yeah, or see what you get, see what you've got in him.
Basically, yeah, I think we've more or less talked all that we can about Precious for the most part, short of seeing him do something with milk bags again. With that being said, is there something that you're looking forward to for the rest? Aside from the fact that, guess what, I did see that we had a bunch of commitments for the Canadian FIBA team that came out today. We don't have to talk about it, but I'm just, I'm excited. Um,
I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that. Is there anybody new?
there's no one new that I saw, but it was a lot. There was a lot of previous commitments kind of coming back. I think the one that I was really shocked by, because he just, I mean, he didn't really have to do this, was Jamal Murray. I
Yeah.
thought he was going to take a little bit of a rest, and
Mhm.
no, it's all hands on
Great.
deck. So I'm really
That's
excited.
awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. How about Shea?
Yep. Oh
Is
yeah,
Shea
yeah,
on
yeah.
there?
Yeah, of course.
Wiggins? Wiggins
Um,
is always a guy that you never really know if he's gonna commit or not.
That I don't remember seeing.
Okay.
I didn't remember seeing Wiggins, but I think we'll be fine without him. RJ, of course, is going to be on the team.
Yeah, obviously, but
So yeah, it looked pretty solid. I can't remember if Zach Edey will be on the team, so that's something that's
okay.
interesting. So
So
for
my
yep,
reason for asking about Wiggins though is, he's always been really reluctant to play for Team Canada, and I was wondering if that was because of the Nick Nurse thing. I think it wasn't it you who was telling me that there were players that were
yes.
reluctant to play for Team Canada because Nurse was the coach, and I was wondering if Wiggins had committed now, that would have been a really great barometer to see, why he was so reluctant in the past. But if he's still not playing, then it must be some other reason.
So I'm looking, and no, Wiggins is not on this thing.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yes, Lou Dort is there. Zach. So Zach Edey did commit.
Zach Edey is.
Awesome.
Oh, cool, cool. Oh, great. I'm looking
Also,
forward to seeing him.
Dylan Brooks is committing, which is very interesting. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, in terms of nurse stuff, I'll tell you some stuff after. But there's some interesting stuff there. But yeah, I just think I'm really excited. Definitely, people, stay tuned. Uh, I will be covering, maybe not every single game. I'm not going to be doing like live game stuff because it is coming into study mode for me. But you can stay tuned on Basketball Rewind. I might as well plug myself every so often. And so yeah, with that being said, is there anything that you want to plug before we go and get out of here?
Uh Plug. I don't know. About,
You're writing a
now that I'm
book,
thinking
or
about
no? Just
Canada
kidding.
basketball. Nah. Now that I'm, well, sure, yeah, actually, it's
Okay.
not going to be very useful to plug it on here, but I've recently started a business. I opened up my own school, and
Oh,
so I've been, yeah. So like about 2.5 months ago, we opened, and we built it up to, we have about a little over 50 students now.
okay.
Started with zero. 2.5 months ago, we started with zero students, and we're up to about 50. So I've literally, and this is no cap, I think I've had less than 12 hours of sleep total this week.
Oh,
So
okay. You.
yeah, like
I'll
this
let you
entire
go
week.
soon.
Yeah. So like last night I had an hour and a half of sleep. Yeah, I got home from work at like after 4 a.m. So yeah, so I'll plug my school. If you happen to be an elementary school student that lives in Taiwan and you're watching this video, come join us.
Yeah, yeah, honestly. I mean, uh, there are certain professions in this world that are just, I can't say enough about. Teachers and educators are one of them. And honestly, just yes, I kudos to you. I couldn't do it. If I do any sort of teaching in the future, it will be at a different, more of uh, I guess a university or a professional level, which is completely different. That what you're doing is so important, and honestly, yeah, just keep doing whatever you're doing in terms of that. Keep building like your own school. Keep
Mhm.
building schools. So shouts.
Yeah,
Is there some sort of a website
thanks, man.
that I can put down below?
Nope. We have
Okay.
nope.
One day there
Short
will be a
answer, no.
website. We will
There
put
will
it
be.
down
There will
below.
be. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
There
So
you go. There you
we
go.
will
Yeah.
update this in the
Uh,
future. Um,
yeah. Yeah.
I guess really quickly, just to end this off, what are you hoping for the rest between now and I guess training camp? What is
Mhm.
one thing that you're hoping
Yeah. Okay.
for the Raptors, I should say?
For the Raptors. Sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm hoping for some deals. I'm hoping for some trades. Like you said, I want to see some of the log jam cleared away. When you have too many players that are similar,
Mhm.
competing for roles that are, nobody is really, taking that step to separate himself from the others, then you got to start making some moves because they're not making the decision easy for you. A couple of players that I wouldn't, I like them, but I could see maybe they would be better suited somewhere else. Um, Maybe Chris Boucher, definitely Malachi Flynn. Um, I think Malachi Flynn has been such a good soldier. He has done everything that's asked for him, and I mean, he's been an afterthought. He's been
He's been like an abused puppy, basically.
kind of, yeah, you know what?
It's
And
like,
he's
geez.
kept his mouth shut. And he's done what he's been asked. I think he's a really great, high character guy. I really like him as a person. I don't know him obviously, but from what I know about him, I think he's a really great guy. I think he could really benefit from a change of scenery. I don't think that he fits particularly here. He's a combo guard. He's a little on the small side, and we have too many other small guards.
Mhm.
So I would love to see him be moved. Chris Boucher, I think that he has, I think I talked to you about this before, is that
Mhm.
when you have guys that are a little bit lower on the depth chart, bench players, maybe even third guys, what you need to see from them is that they bring some elite skill or something that they do better than everybody else that can contribute. And I think what Chris Boucher does better than anybody else is he cleans up the garbage. And
Mhm.
on the Toronto Raptors, when you have chuckers that are missing shots and when you're not a good shooting team, you need garbage collectors. You need guys that can grab a rebound and put it up. You need guys that can get the tip. And he was just by far the best at that. And I think without him, you better have a really good shooting team. You don't want to have you don't want to give up a lot of rebounds, without him on the team. So uh, I do like the direction that the Raptors are going, getting a little bit better shooting. If they can take that jump to become a better than average shooting team, then I could see a guy like Chris being expendable
Mhm.
because like he has a lot of overlap with other players. Um, I'd like to see more of a maybe a I want to say clearly defined. I guess it's a little too early for that, but maybe a clearly defined expectations for Scotty Barnes. I want to see the coaching staff specifically, not the management. I want to see the coaching staff say, this is specifically what we want to see from Scotty. We want to see Scotty have fewer than 2 turnovers in a game or like per game average. We want to see
Yep.
Scotty make 3 dazzling passes every game. We want to see Scotty um, get his paint percentages up to, whatever, high 40s or low 50s or whatever percent. We want to see him attempt 3 point shots per game. I want to hear these things from the coach where there are specific things that they want to see from Scotty or his role. Like we want to see him run the point
Yep.
for certain stretches. You know, because right now he's catching a lot of shade from people, and I understand why. He didn't have a great year last year, but I'm a big believer in Scotty, and if it were up to me, I'd play him at point. I think he's a point guard. I think that he has point potential. Point guard, point forward. He needs to be initiating the offense. He needs to be making the plays. He needs to be able to see what needs to be done and then initiate that. Um, and so right now it's still a little bit nebulous. Like I know that Darko Rajakovic has said like he loves Scotty. Well, that's nice, but it's not specific.
Yeah. I mean, you can love Yeah. It's, yeah, I agree with a lot of that. Um, my thing with Scotty is this. I I still think that he has MVP level potential.
Mm.
I think that, and we talked about this, it's like the way that he plays, the way that he seems to like to play may not be what's optimal for him. That doesn't mean that he can't be a point guard.
The
I
Kobe thing that we were talking about,
It's the
right?
Kobe thing, right? It's like
Mhm.
he's not really Kobe.
Yeah.
And also I wouldn't model my game after Kobe personally. But like sorry. But you know, I think I want him to be a bit more like Magic. Early
Yeah.
Magic especially until he
Mhm. Mhm.
is able to really truly gain a shot that is dependable.
Mhm.
Um
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
I mean, Magic would see a small guy in the post and he would not hesitate to punish that person.
Oh
That's
man,
what I
yeah,
want
he
to
would
see.
just go right in him.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I distinctly remember, and this is not me trying to give him guff, but I'm just saying, like, I distinctly remember the Cleveland game where it's like I was like almost yelling at the TV, like Donovan Mitchell has 4 fouls. Just take it to him, right?
Take
Like
it
you
to him.
have
Yeah,
Donovan Mitchell,
exactly.
you are up here, he is down there, right? There is
Yeah.
you, he will not like, and it took him like 3 possessions to finally like because he kept giving up the ball. I'm like, no, that is
Mhm.
you, and there's like you you got to take that.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Absolutely.
I don't
That's
know.
experience though. I think that'll come.
It might be experience. It might be a personality thing. It might be that he needs the right coach to unlock that in him. I'm gonna actually zig where most people are zagging. I don't know if I can fully blame that on a Van Vliet, and I'm not a Van Vliet
Yeah.
guy, but I don't know
Yeah.
if I
No,
can put.
I know.
You know what I mean?
It's
That
not so simple. It's not that simple.
Yeah, it's not that simple.
Exactly.
It has to be a little bit on Barnes. I think it has to be a little bit on the coaching staff. To be honest,
Yeah.
people may not like this, but I think that that's a little bit on Masai. Um,
Could be, yeah.
you know,
Well,
in terms
and
of
I'm
role definition all the way down.
like, I do not want anybody to clip this and put this on Twitter that I'm making a comp to Ben Simmons, but I'm just going to say one thing.
I'm
No,
not
no,
going there, but
hear
I'll
me
let you
out.
go there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think Ben Simmons is he catches a lot of what he catches is justified, but a lot of it is unfair too. And especially that play in the playoffs, the infamous play against Atlanta where he passed open the wide open dunk. You know
Hmm.
that basically that moment in time ended his career basically. Um, you know, I've heard him talk about that, and he said like he's the way that he is wired is to find another guy that has a better shot that you can make to elevate the team to make the teammates better to get them going. He's wired that way. And
Yeah,
that's not a bad thing. So what he was doing is instead of noticing that, hey, I have a wide open dunk, he's like, hey, here's a guy that's coming that has a wide open dunk.
yeah,
And so he passed it off in the moment. And I can see a little bit of that same sort of mentality in Scotty that he likes to get the other guys better shots than what he thinks he has. And that's fine. But if you are only wired that way, then situations can
yeah,
happen like what happened to Ben Simmons. And I do not want to see anything even remotely like that happen to Scotty Barnes, you know, because that's something that you might never come back from. So
yes,
get him, like you said, maybe in a different system, get him a coach that will tell him, listen, you know what? You have to notice when you have the best shot. And you have to notice when you have a mismatch that you can take advantage, when you can bully a Donovan Mitchell that's a 5'11", 6-foot guy with 4 fouls. Like you have to recognize that and take it to him
yeah. I
every
mean,
time.
I remember in his first year, and like the funny thing is that like you'll probably think that I'm like a Fred guy, but it's like I'm really not. Like I literally
Mhm.
like have gone back and forth with like a Raptors media member recently, like
Yeah.
basically making fun of them for like pining over Fred. I'm like, really, Fred? You know, no offense, but like it's not like we lost like Hawaii or something, and we're acting like we lost
Mhm.
Hawaii.
Mhm.
But yeah, and it's just like I remember in the first year, and it was one of the Atlanta games. It always seems to be an Atlanta game, but
Atlanta, right? Yeah.
yeah, but and Fred gave Barnes the ball. He had Trey Young on him, and then he gave up the ball, and Fred was like looking at him like, "What are you doing?" And it's like, so that's what I
What? Yeah.
mean. Where there are times, and it's just like you need to like, you know,
Mhm.
you need to be the guy. You can't just be the ultimate glue guy because you can't really build a team around
Mhm.
Draymond Greens, right? You can't.
No,
You need to recognize that you have the God-given talent to boss people out of the way, right? And
absolutely.
that's what I want to see this year. Um,
What I want to see from him is more Giannis, less Kobe.
yes, yes. Um, and to that point, like I said, you say Giannis. I've heard the Giannis thing before. I'll even with uh with Magic, he didn't let that opportunity. You know what I mean? And keep in mind,
Yeah.
people, yes, uh, people could say whatever they want, and people were in the way of Magic. He played with Hall of Fame people, and he
Mhm.
he was like he had that level of presence. But again,
Yeah.
it's Magic Johnson, people. So I'm
Yeah.
not trying to compare him to Magic Johnson. I do not want to do
No.
that. I hate doing too many of the comparisons for that reason because then
Yeah.
it's like,
I
well, he is
yeah.
like I don't like even want to compare him to like Jokic or anything like that. I'm like I want
No.
Scotty Barnes to be the best Scotty Barnes.
And I don't think there is a comp for Scotty, really. I don't think there is another player like
No,
him. But what I do is, I mean, what we all should be doing is taking another player's game and
yes,
saying, well, if Scotty could add something like this, like what that guy does, he could
yes,
also do this really, really well. I think that's fair,
like from
rather than just saying, oh,
Simmons.
he's
Yeah, sorry, I was just gonna say like from Simmons. Simmons was a phenomenal dribbler, still is
oh
actually,
man,
but
yeah, absolutely.
and it's like that's something where I'm like, like I don't think he will have Simmons' agility, because just that dude was like,
Not many do. Not many
yeah,
do. Yeah. I mean,
but
if Scotty could add Simmons handle and yeah, like burst, agility, and defense, like those are things about Simmons games that would really benefit Scotty. So it's not like saying like Scotty is Simmons, but he can take some things from his game. Why not? You know?
yeah, I mean, I always say like not necessarily in all ways, but in some ways, like his body, his physique is kind of mimics like early LeBron in some ways. And
Hmm.
it's but again,
Hmm.
like it's like what made LeBron some of what made LeBron special, even having a power game, was LeBron. I had this argument with someone the other day, and they were like comparing Luca to LeBron, and they're like he's better, and I'm like you have no. I'm like you were alive. I'm not gonna say the person's, but like I was like you were alive during this time. I was like you're just a LeBron hater. Like, no offense to Luca, but like they were trying to argue that like Luca's like
Yeah.
more athletic than LeBron. I'm like
Nobody in the
LeBron.
history of the earth has been a better athlete than LeBron. Like that's a legit argument that people could make. He might be
Yeah,
the greatest athletic person of all time.
yeah, it's he's definitely up there for sure. Like it's he and like the way that he would move and his abilities to his fluidity, his dribbling.
Mhm.
I'm not asking Sky to be all that. I just want like but
Mhm.
his dribbling, his power dribbling with control, um
Yeah.
that's something that I think that Scotty can add to his game for sure.
I think that would unlock so much for him if he could do that. Yeah.
You know what's funny? Just really quickly to do like an aside on Scotty. LeBron's game really unlocked when he started um accepting his like more post presence. If you go back in his
Mm.
game, and it's like I'm not saying he was just a post player, but like when he
Mhm.
started like going inside and built that mid-range game, built that post game,
Mhm.
his game really unlocked. Obviously, the shooting for Barnes is another key, of course. But yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
like we'll definitely see what happens. I don't know. I know some people are suggesting that he might make like an All NBA leap. I don't know if I want to put those expectations on the young man to for like this year specifically.
Mhm.
Um, that's a lot. Um, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna pump people. I tell people temper your expectations because I hate to see us continue to build these guys up, and just dunk on them.
What
Um,
I will say about that is that it's good to let Scotty know that we have the confidence that he has the ability to be whatever he wants. If he wants to be all NBA, he has nothing standing in his way but himself.
mhm,
rather than saying I expect you to be all NBA, that implies I'll be disappointed if you're not.
Yes.
So there's a negative connotation there. I don't like that expectation, but what I would say is like I have the ultimate faith that you can be this.
Yeah, yeah. And I also like to add to that, it doesn't have to necessarily be in one season. Like that's the
No, it
thing.
doesn't.
It's like people are expecting these leaps in like a single
Mhm.
season, and then it's like, and then all of a sudden now, and that's how you get people being like, well, it's year three. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and they're not wrong, as that's the
Yeah.
challenge of the NBA is that like time moves so quickly in the
Hmm.
NBA.
Hmm.
But at the same time, it's like, you just want like a fostered relationship with him to be kind of uplifting in some sort of way rather than it to become like a contentious thing. Um,
Yeah.
you mentioned trades. The final thing that I'll say is like, so would you trade I mean, we've talked about this, and you know where I stand. I said like I would trade him for the right piece. But would you
Hmm.
trade is it like absolutely necessary to trade Pascal Siakam for Scotty Barnes to thrive?
No, no, it's not. It's not necessary. Siakam is a guy that can do what he's asked to do and can go with the flow. He's been asked to be the face of the team. He's been asked to be the dominant player. But I think that Pascal is the type of personality that might not be overjoyed about taking a step back, but it could be framed in a way that it wouldn't cause irreparable damage between him and the team to say, we're developing our young guys. We want Scotty to take a bigger jump on offense. We think that you can be a complementary fit next to Scotty Barnes. You don't have to do everything yourself now. Take your foot off of the offensive gas pedal a little bit and put more of it on the defensive side. You used to be a great defender. Get back to that. Conserve some of your energy on offense. You don't have to initiate every single thing. That is going to be a puzzle that fits better together than if it's too lopsided and like you're doing too much on offense, which is limiting your energy level on defense and is also limiting Scotty's ability to initiate an offense.
Mhm.
So sell him on the idea that he can still be the best player on the team or the best. I don't know how to word it right, but sell him on the fact that he's an indispensable, necessary part of the team.
Yeah, because I was gonna say
The
telling him he's a complimentary piece is maybe not the best way
not
to
compliment, not a
word for
complimentary
it.
piece. Tell him that he can complement the team game with these other players because he's so good at these specific things that can fit well with everybody and elevate the ceiling of the entire team. Like you can
Yeah,
sell him on that if you know how to say it right. Like I think he's the type of guy that's gonna can be convinced about that. Not like some guys that are just gonna be like, I gotta have the ball in my hand, all the time, and
I mean,
you
if
know,
you actually, I know you do. It's more for the audience, but like if you actually listen to him speak, he talks a lot about winning and that sort of thing, and people don't
yeah,
really uh, seem to
mhm,
remember that. Like that's all he talks about, working hard and winning, and
yeah,
like spells out that he's like, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get back to that level, aka the championship level.
yeah,
I don't think that I don't think that he necessarily plays the best in a place where he is taking 30
yeah,
percent of usage. And to be honest,
yeah.
I don't want Scotty to play like Luca. Scotty's not Luca.
No,
Like
I mean, look where the Mavericks finished.
look at where the Mavericks finish. I don't think that you can play that way. I don't think you can play like how Trey Young plays.
Yeah.
I don't think he needs to do that. I think the easiest thing is that in a better defensive system, in other words, one that is not a high wire act, that probably
Hmm.
uses each of your players in the correct positions. For example, I
Hmm.
don't think that Pascal should be playing point of attack on a regular basis. I know he did it in the Wizards series way back, where he was chasing around John Wall and stuff like that. Beyond pointed
Hmm.
that out to
Hmm.
me, and yeah, he
He's
he he
he's
still
better
has
just in
that.
the paint. Yeah. Post
Yes.
defense, he's great.
He's good with help defense and stuff like that. To be honest, even Scotty Barnes, I think Scotty Barnes, when he's used as a point of attack defender, he's not a good defender.
I agree.
Right?
He's
But
not.
when he's used in other ways, he's a much better player. Um, but
Exactly.
again, not using a high wire act, not having to ignore the corner and then have these crazy close out to the corners. I like how Darko, shout out to Samson Folk, who asked a natural basketball question. Darko basically said it's like you
Yeah.
use the corners. You want them to shoot above the break because you want to use the court's geometry as part of your defense. He didn't word it in that way, but if you parse
But
through it,
that's what he
that's
said. Yeah.
essentially what he's doing.
Mhm.
So that's what I'm excited for. I actually think it can work. I think Pirtle's like a weird fit, but I don't think that we need to double down on taking the best shooting guy in that and get worse
Yeah.
at shooting with some of the suggestions that I've seen. Like
Mhm.
Walker. No offense to
Okay.
Walker, will have a great career, but yeah.
You're
So
not you're
yeah,
not high on Jared Soccer, huh? That's interesting.
I think he's really good. It's just he's like like imagine us drafting Jarvis Walker. What would you say?
I would say there's a redundancy there on this team.
This is why I'm like, if I were to trade Pascal and that's what we're getting back, I'm like, we haven't
Mhm.
solved the problem. We've potentially made it
Yeah.
worse. Um, I think in another, it's almost like an OG replacement, but like that's a whole other discussion for another day. But
Yeah.
Jarris Walker is not a great fit with us. It's like Anthony Black, um, not the phenomenal player. I'm actually really high on him, just not on this
I love
specific
Anthony
team.
Black. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, with that being said, it's been fun. It's been great. People
Yeah.
like, comment, and subscribe. If you are in Taiwan, you are a school age child. Check out the man's school. Check out the man's school.
And
Yep.
if you are looking for a place to vacation, Taiwan is a beautiful, beautiful place. I live 40 minutes away, 30 minutes and a little boat ride away from a beautiful little coral reef tropical island that has, a resident population of 300 endangered sea turtles that you can swim with,
Oh,
you snorkel with. The water's warm, the beaches are beautiful. Taiwan is it's an undiscovered gem, and I really, if you want me to plug something, I would plug Taiwan. Come spend your hard-earned money here. Don't
absolutely.
go to Hawaii. Don't go to Hawaii. Just keep going. Just come over here.
Then and also the next time you're on this side, we will definitely have to meet up. Like we didn't get a chance to
We will.
this past
Yeah,
time. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So yeah,
Next next time,
that's
man.
been the episode, people. Uh, Everyone, be safe. Enjoy the rest of your summers. I'm assuming that it will be summer when you watch this, people. So yeah. With that being said, take care and peace.